Would you ever go back to life thousands of years ago? The ancient Romans didn't have modern plumbing, air conditioners, or peanut butter. But surprisingly, they were still living the high life. Here's how drugs were used and abused in ancient Rome. The benefits. Before we get to recreational drug use, let's talk about the medicinal purposes that common drugs were used for. Although there's no textual evidence of the use of cannabis medicinally, cannabis resin was recently discovered in the tomb of a woman who died in childbirth, suggesting it was sometimes used for labor pains. According to some Roman doctors, like Galen, cannabis, for example, was used to create strong robes. This was done via fibers of the male plant. It was also used to repel mosquitoes. Other doctors noted that it caused decreased sexual activity and impotence, but could also be used to treat gonorrhea. Most of this is proven to be true. In contrast, opium was very popular. There was a drink made from it called Cretic wine that was used as a sleep aid. Something called meconium was made from poppy leaves, but this was a lot less potent. Roman surgeons, especially those working in the military, were highly advanced. Opium poppies, from which morphine is derived, henbane seeds, and mandrake were used extensively as painkillers as well. Another much darker use of the drug was for suicide. Many people suffering from old age and disease would choose to die floating in its gentle waves. The drug was readily available and could be bought by anyone. It was sold as small tablets in specialist stalls in most marketplaces. Galen, for example, recommended a retailer just off the Via Sacra near the Forum in the city of Rome itself. Going back to ancient Rome means coming to a place where there are no restrictions on substances of any kind. And sure, they had some knowledge of how to use drugs medicinally, but most of the time their use of drugs was closer to mixing two poisons and hoping you'd get a good result. It really wasn't much better than witchcraft, especially because they were completely ignorant of most of the side effects. There's no wonder the average lifespan was so low at the time, especially when you take the addiction and overdosing into account. The abused. The Romans knew about overdosing, with some doctors writing about the possibility of dying if drugs were consumed in large quantities. Not that it stopped people from ingesting them, kinda rings true today still. On the other hand, there was no concept of addiction, so there aren't any recorded cases of it either. But the availability of opium means that it probably wouldn't be that far off if you think that most people faced it. The only known example we have is the case of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. According to historians, Aurelius had started taking the drug multiple times a day to treat his chest and stomach discomfort. This habit helped him through the war, but it was only a downward spiral from there. Once he was in the clutches of addiction, he would never be free. When he tried to quit, he faced what Galen called dry humors, but what we now recognize as symptoms of withdrawal. Without the drug, the Roman emperor would become unable to address his troops or prepare for battle. If he started using it again, he would face its many side effects. Getting a cure for his nightly insomnia meant that during the day, his brain was too clouded by the drug to function most of the time. This is the only recorded case of addiction, but there were likely many more. Opium use was not limited to the higher social classes, who would have been able to contact doctors and have their cases recorded, but also the working class people. On the other hand, cannabis and other drugs might not have been available to the lower classes due to not being grown in large amounts around Europe at the time. However, this assumption is only made because of an absence of evidence. It might be completely the other way around, but there's no way to find out for sure. From what we do know, the wealthier Romans considered cannabis seeds a delicacy. They fried and served them after dinner as a dessert. According to Galen, the seeds were eaten to stimulate an appetite for drinking, and they created a feeling of warmth. According to another female historian, there was another substance that, when mixed with wine, caused uncontrollable laughter. Parties must have been fun back then. The Romans were definitely turning up for the drugs every chance they got. Well, that's it, guys. What do you think about drug use in ancient Rome? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and stick around for the next one.